future hello person watching on YouTube in a video recording. My name is Brendan, and I'm here to code with you, so let's have some fun. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the project. So this is our Chatterbot project, and yes, I know lots of people do chatbots of one variety or another. And in fact, we have a chatbot that is the one talking over there, and that is actually not even the chatbot we're working on. We are building a slightly different chatbot than what we normally build on the stream. So most dev live streams build some kind of a chatbot, and most gaming streams end up having chatbots as well. And the reason why is they provide quick ways of having information available to the users. So if someone wants to find out the link to our Discord, they can just type in !Discord and it tosses that into chat. If they want to know the GitHub, they can do that again. And it's these simple responses that end up happening when you use one of these bots. Really useful. In our channel, we have quite a few bots, actually. I also have a bot that is controlling the color of these lights around the stream. So you'll notice that this one and that one can change color to any color that you mention in chat. So if you say blue, it turns blue. If you say orange, it turns orange. And that bot is just watching for any color, anything it can interpret as a color, and it's just going to change to that. So if I said like... oh, whoops. It helps if you don't typo it. I could do that. So I meant to do red, but since I didn't quite complete the whole set, it still tried to interpret it as a color. So you have control over what colors it is there. Now that's actually a separate bot. We did that as a one-off stream. We have also done some other bots here on the channel, and I want to take all the bots that we have built and any bot and any cool functionality anyone else has built and say, hey, you built a neat thing, I want my bot to do that too. Oh, that's a really cool game that they made for their chat, I want that. And so I can't do that unless I have a bot that's very modular. So that's what we set out to build here. So we're going to build a modular chatbot, and we've started on it already, and I will show you what it looks like. We're just going to go ahead and F5 run this thing. So it's going to connect all the debuggers and everything like that. So it's going to be a little slow starting up because it's got to try to hook into that. And I will mention that we were in the middle of working on this at the end of our last stream, and I don't believe I've touched it since that stream. So we're going to pick up right where we left off and work on this. Okay, so when I committed the last stream, I did what is called a work in progress commit. I'm guessing McClayson. We don't support our RGB or even HSL or any of those other ones. You get hex or named colors only at this point. Not to say we couldn't support RGB and HSL, we just haven't put it in there. Yeah, exactly. HSL or HSV, whatever you want to use, but some version of that. Yes. We can add those in. We haven't done them yet. When that feature gets added into this spot, we'll add all the bells and whistles. Okay, so I do what is called a work in progress commit. If you're ever at a point in your programming and you need to run out the door, but you want to make sure your code is at least committed, so you can push it up and make it available to others or even yourself on another computer or something like that, I recommend that you do what is called a work in progress commit. And all I do is I put in the word whip. So immediately when checking the history, and I knew about this before I started the stream because I looked over here in the history to see what I was working on. When you sit down, you can always pull up the history and you see, ooh, I had a work in progress commit. So that tells me immediately this might be, not currently running. It might be an incomplete refactoring. It could be in the midst of a unit test. And it's either green or maybe it's green and needs refactoring, maybe it's red and doesn't pass at all. But in some case, I know this is an incomplete commit. I shouldn't trust this code. So that's what we need to do for our future selves, is say, hey, by the way, I'm committing this code, but like don't set that expectation bar too high, because I was running out the door, is often what the case is. So it usually means some kind of like, oh yes, I have to go run and pick up my kid kind of thing came up, and you make a change. So welcome everyone who's shown up to the stream, Fuel Snable and Dumpster. Welcome, welcome. Yes, it is Brendonius, Brendan, DevChatter, whatever words you want to go with. Any code that is committed with please work has an increased chance of working. Oh yeah. Yep. It could be in the comment, or it could be like the name of the method. It doesn't matter. Okay, so it is unable to resolve iDirectory reader. I believe the reason is that we did not implement one. I think we did not even create it. Okay, so iDirectory reader. Let's ask the program. Okay, so tiny little box you might not be able to read says derived types of iDirectory were not found. So that means I did not create one yet. Luckily, I think that this would be a good time to add one. Okay, so I am going to create a new project. Add new project. So let's talk clean architecture for a second. Something I recommend people do is, if you have a project that is going to have multiple infrastructure references, so in this case we have access to LightDB and we have access to Twitch, we are now also going to make access to the file system as like direct file access. So because of that, I want to make a .NET Core class library. And yes, I am going to do .NET Core instead of .NET Standard, mainly because I don't think that we're going to do, at least there are currently no plans to make a full framework version of this. So I'm going to use .NET Core, which I believe will be the easier transition over to .NET 5 when we get there. Your cow allowed programmers to put a probability on each row indicating the chance of the row to be executed. You also had to put in a please at the beginning of the line, otherwise it was rude code compile error. That's weird. That is very strange, Fuel Snable. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this project, and I want to put it inside of the infra folder. So we're going to put it inside of the infra folder, and it is going to be called infra.file system. Ooh, what do I want to call it? This is a good question. So here's what brings up the discussion here. In C#, one of the problems that you can run into in terms of code compiling that is insidious and will trick and surprise you is if your namespace is matching other namespaces, types, things like that, you can run into issues with resolving types at compile time. So as a result, I want to be careful with how we name this. So maybe I'll go with infra file system with a lowercase s, because I think the one that we'd run into is a capital S. Maybe I've got that backwards. Either way, I'm going to try this. So this will be our reference to the file system infrastructure. So an infrastructure means anything like outside of your control. So something like the database, file system, web APIs, other things like that you're going to need to connect to. So in our case, Twitch is an external infrastructure piece that we need to attach to. Keep all your namespaces the same. So you don't. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, Root Guy. Yeah, just get rid of namespaces entirely, and then as long as you use unique names, you're fine. technically root guy's not wrong. If you get rid of namespaces, you do have to solve some of those naming issues. I think it comes with some other problems, but you know. Also, welcome root guy, and welcome Ruin. Hello, greetings. Just prefix with a unique prefix. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that totally makes a huge difference. Okay. So chatterbot dot for file system. There we go. Okay, so someone at this point has got to be wondering. I did something. I named that project as infra.filesystem, and then I changed its name from that to this other one. Why did I do that? Let's talk. If we look at... So if this is the project, hang on, right here, this is the like file explorer project. If I open up the infrastructure folder, you'll notice the base infrastructure's in here. That's just the general one that essentially includes and is like the parent of all the others. Here's the file system. Here's LightDB, and here's Twitch. If I had created it with the Chatterbot prefix on that name, it would have made a Chatterbot folder. Now, I don't want the folder names to get out of control and have that you know, essentially extra bit on it. So what I do to avoid that is I made sure that the folder, when I created it without that, so that I don't have to then rename the folder and move everything around. Makes it a little bit easier. So then when I rename, I can just go in and fix all the namespaces and everything like that, and it will work just fine. So if I look in here, the assembly name is that, and the default namespace is this. And those are what I want, because in .NET Core, it bases that, essentially what the name is, just on the project name. And you can tell that because this is the metadata of the project right here. We're looking at the properties of the project, and you'll notice it does not even specify what is supposed to be there. So that's why we can just rename it and it changes. Yes, root guy, the new CS proj files from .NET Core are fantastic. Look at how clean. I mean, yes, they were not able to get the JSON they wanted. They still had to do XML because that's just the way that the tooling team wanted it to be, I think, is the idea. So I know that at least for web, they wanted to use JSON, and I think non-web wanted to stick with XML. But either way, that is still really, really clean. So I am very happy with how that turned out. Okay, so let's rename this class to directory reader. And directory reader. So here's what I need to do. I was about to let ReSharper do that, but I am instead going to click on this, and I am going to add project reference. And which project are you in? You should be in the Abstractions project. You are. Good. Just wanted to make sure it was in the right spot. So if I include this project, and I go back over here, it should now be able to just add a using. And yay! There we go. Okay, excellent. Perfect. JSON/XML. So Fuel Snable, the web team, ASP.NET Core team, wanted to do their CS, like instead of their CS project files being like they wanted to have their project files be JSON instead of XML. So there are good things and bad things about both JSON and XML. JSON is a little bit lighter in the amount of code, like it's a little bit less verbose, but some people like XML better for human readability and familiarity, because a lot more people have worked with XML than have worked with JSON, so I can understand that from that perspective. That being said, we're all programmers, so it's a little bit different for anyone that would be inside of a Visual Studio project file versus something else. But let's see, because the MS Build team could not be bothered to write 20 lines of code to do JSON to XML. Yeah, basically, Simon. The MS Build team did not want to have to support both. I think it really, so like we mentioned 20 lines of code, but and you're right, if they used some third-party library, it probably would be 20 lines of code. I think what they didn't want to do was have to deal with all the possible edge cases and strange scenarios, which is where like 90% of the 90% of the work is always going to come from that 10% case. Oh yeah, we're just all going to use Toml now. Thanks, Fuel Snable. Yep. One day they will support JSON and XML together, so you can mix them. Oh, root guy, get out of here! Don't even talk about that. That's yes. Yes, precisely, Fuel Snable. So Fuel Snable is suggesting that every developer has created their own format for this that eventually everyone is going to realize is the best way to go. That's not the case. But sure, yeah. I know some programmers that created their own programming languages, I think really thinking that their programming language is going to be great. That being said, if you want to create a programming language as a fun exercise to learn about programming languages and better understand them, or you really do think that yours has some real value, awesome, go for it, build it, have fun. Given how minimal it is now, it doesn't matter that it's XML. Yes, precisely, Simon. It is so minimal now that whether it's XML or JSON makes almost no difference. That's why I commented, like, even as XML, this is just still crazy, crazy nice. Even when you get into some of the bigger ones. So that has a couple of references. This still is nothing, even with all those references. It's still barely anything. So easy to read everything that's going on in there. All right, let's go ahead and load this. We may get a runtime exception with that not... I didn't actually register it. You gotta love how I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and run it. Oh, wait, I didn't actually do the task that makes it do anything. Okay. Yeah. Add infrastructure for file system. Ooh, app settings is probably going to get passed into this one too, isn't it? Okay, so what I'm borrowing from that other project is essentially just what the name of the reference is that I need to make. So I need to reference Microsoft Extensions options, and this is what lets me have access to the service collection. So that's essentially saying I want access to the Microsoft abstractions for an IOC container. So I'm saying I want to initialize my collection, the service collection. So that is what is going to give me that ability. Wait, did I edit the wrong one? I edited the wrong. No, I edited the right one. Okay, so this is for file system, this, and then I want to services. For a directory reader, it could absolutely be transient, and there should be no difference. Because we should not need to keep it around. If ever someone needs access to the file system, they can get access to this thing that'll let them get to the file system. That said, CloudFormation in YAML is vastly preferable to JSON. Yeah, so Fuel Snable, I agree. There are a lot of... So JSON I don't actually think is a great option. It's not very human readable. It is not the best solution. I do think in a lot of cases it is better than XML, especially for communication between a client and server that's not read by humans. But that being said, I'll take whatever one we can get and just be happy with it, because they solve a problem and they solve it well enough. Hey! The Todd Father, welcome! And thank you very much for subscribing 4 months in a row here on the stream. Hello, hello. Greetings, welcome. Long time no see. I haven't chatted with you on Twitch since like yesterday. It's been a while. Okay. So, jumping back into the code, we have this that still won't run. Brendan, come on, what are you doing? I need to add it to the infrastructure project. So I told you the way that we built this is we have all the separate infrastructures. There is a parent infrastructure that also has a dependency injection. And what it is going to do is reference our project, file system. So it now has access to that project as well. And so what it is going to do is it is going to say services.add infrastructure. Where's for file system? Hang on. I might have to build first. Maybe I just can't see it yet. Pretty neat thing in Scala is that question mark expression throws not implemented exception. Oh! Well, that's nice. Oh, derp. I see why I didn't get it. I left this as infra Twitch. Thanks, pair programmer. You took... No, that was my mistake, not yours. I was just kidding. Services, add file. There we go. Now I got it. Oh, that's really neat, fuel sample. So you just toss in 3 question marks and it automatically does a throw not implemented? That's kind of amazing, actually. I think a lot of people would argue that, like, making special cases for not implemented exceptions is a little extreme, but at the same time, I actually don't think that's the case. I think that having not implemented exceptions is a very important part of the development process, because most of the time, if you have a not implemented exception like this is an indicator to the developer to just make absolutely sure that you don't miss that and you do implement it before production. So you want to throw an exception. Don't just leave these things empty. Make sure you're throwing. That's how you avoid not setting something up. Well, that's funny. Okay, well, yes. I guess if that's effectively what it is, then yes, that works. Wasn't paying attention. Get stream on second monitor while building a factory and... Oh, pff. I do kind of want to play that game. There are a few like factory style games that I want to play that I have not gotten around to yet. Okay. So for now, let's just return back a new list of string and see what happens. I don't remember where we left our code. I don't think it's going to break everything, but we'll find out when my computer just breaks. Ah, there we go. Oh, okay. In which file? Which file are you in? Am I not seeing the file? Stack trace. You won't tell. Plugin view, XAML. Oh, duh. I'm in the plugin view here. Derp. Okay, so I'm guessing a moved file just had a namespace that's jumping out. Helpful stranger, greetings, hello, welcome. Yep, so we just moved something and we just need to fix that, which is fine. Alrighty, let's run it one more time. Michael, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. .NET 5 has a bunch more code analyzers now, including the option to error if any method contains a not implemented exception. Oh, yeah, so exactly, Simon. I was going to say that is great for your continuous integration builds to confirm that there are no not implemented exceptions being thrown. I would say either in I would put that as a build task for going into essentially the trunk. So your dev branch kind of protection. So I would be okay if they're going into like a feature branch. That's an okay thing to have there, but when it gets PR'd into the trunk, that is when I would expect the build to fail, because people are going to commit, not implemented exceptions up to the server at minimum. So let's see. So if I go to the plugins view, we get that. Is everything else working? Seems like. Okay. I just wanted to make sure the site was working. Okay, so this is our plugins view. It is not showing plugins yet. This is a lie. We're going to have to actually set up these plugins to be plugins in this folder. But right now, this is our plugin info. So let's have a look at where in that process we are reading the file system and what we're doing with that. So I returned back an empty list for now, but I want to see what we were doing. And I also, while we're looking at this, want to have a look at our tests just to see whether or not they're passing. We don't have enough tests. Some of the code we're working, because one of the reasons why is we don't have UI tests, so there are not many tests yet, because most of what we built to this point is just the UI. And we are not doing any like click around full system UI tests or anything like that. So the parts that have some logic, we are trying to test. And all the tests are passing, so good. Remember I said at the beginning of this that we started with a work in progress commit, so that is an indicator to us that the state of this code is essentially non-working. It is not an ideal state. So we made these changes. We added a new project into the solution right here. And then we referenced it from the infrastructure project and accessed it there. So first thing I want to do, I think, is commit this, fixing namespace in plugin view. So that we're fixing a namespace there, which is good. And then this is adding, we're adding the file system infrastructure. Adding file system infrastructure project. Okay, so now we have those two commits in, and I want to push them up. And that's working code. So not all the features, but it is not broken anymore. Ooh. Simon, that's awesome news. I am really glad we're getting a new MVVM framework. So my hope was that this re-look at Maui and everything like that, all of the essentially the new focus on building UI applications from Microsoft that wasn't Xamarin, I think is going to be a positive. Nothing wrong with Xamarin. I just mean that they're taking an approach of like in-house, fresh start, light framework look at building UI applications. And so I was hoping that along with that, we were going to get refreshes on our MVVM toolkit, some changes to how we do the toolboxes, the design views, everything like that, design time data and this stuff. So my hope is that we're going to have a lot of that new stuff there. Helpful Stranger, you are wondering what is new to the stream. So since we do have at least a handful of people here now, I will mention again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, my audio might sound weird. My lighting might sound weird, look weird. What do lights do and audio do? Anyway, the reason for that is I am in a completely new space. This is not the same room that I've never. This is my first stream in this room, so I audio damp the sound dampening is not in place yet, so there might be echo and other stuff like that, and I apologize for that. If there are some audio issues, do feel free to let me know, because that's the way that I can help fix it. The lighting is not right yet, so I've got some of the lighting over here and here, and some of the lighting here. I'm missing lighting from over here, so that's why you're probably noticing that this side of my face is lit up better than the other side of my face, and there's some other issues with that as well. So we'll be getting some of that stuff fixed up. So you upgraded .NET Core 3.1 to .NET 5 and no issues, so it looks encouraging for your projects. Yeah, so Simon, so for anyone that is wondering, when Microsoft announced .NET 5, I basically came out and I was like, see, I told you, .NET Core is the future, you need to move to it. And the challenge is a lot of companies did not want to make that jump, because they looked at .NET Core, they said, oh, it's got like a bit on its name. We don't know that that's got longevity, so should we jump into Core? And they kind of were hesitant. So one of the reasons being that not everything that is supported on Framework is supported on Core. And that's still the case. So in order to get people to switch, Microsoft realized there's a bit of a naming problem, because they had these two separate pathways. There's Core and Framework. Well, Framework has stopped developing, so Core is the only one really going, because Framework's getting the occasional new feature, but it's really like in maintenance and bug fix mode, not really like growth and development mode. And so when they did .NET Core 5, .NET Core 5 is, or say .NET 5 is .NET Core 4 with a name change. That's all it is. So it should be easy to move to if you're already on .NET Core. If you're on .NET Full Framework, this is going to be the time to transition, because without doubt, now I have not, obviously I have not seen it, I don't know it exists, we haven't looked at it, but Microsoft is going to have some kind of plan for transition. They're going to help businesses move to .NET, because if they don't, they're going to lose those customers. So they're going to have, programs that assist you. They're going to have tooling that assists you. They're going to have articles that are going to assist you. They're going to have for everything you need to move. I can't imagine they're not mobilizing mass tons of effort, like just human effort, into creating tons of content and tooling to help you transition from current versions of .NET Framework over to .NET 5. That same level of effort will not be required for the people that already switched to .NET Core. It's going to be a much easier jump to go from .NET Core 3.1 to .NET 5. But there will still be some of that as well. So my recommendation is people plan for and get ready for this transition over to .NET 5. So it'll be a good one. If you do still have stuff on .NET Framework, just keep that in mind. Make sure you're talking with your employer about it, things like that. Let's see. You're kind of hoping the back end of Maui relies less on tessellation and more on distance fields. It includes the base class stuff for observable objects for binding, as well as async commands. Ooh! Okay, so they are actually going to get us that. I'm really glad to hear that, Simon. As well as a message bus for commas between VMs. .NET Framework is the new... Yes, Fuel Snap was correct. .NET Framework is VB6. It's... I mean, even VB, not even talking 6, even like VB.NET. Now, there are a few people that if they heard me say that, they'd probably not be too happy with me, because they work really hard in PR to make sure that people know that VB is still used and still common, and there are still people that rely on it and build great stuff with it all the time. And it's true. It is a perfectly fine language, and if you are someone that uses VB, awesome. Keep using it if you like it. Like, there's nothing I can say is going to change that, and it's not even correct to say anything bad or really, diminish it in any way. But it is not like the level of effort put into VB is not the same level of effort that is put into C#. It's essentially like C# is the chosen language of the Microsoft stack. So it's where all the help's going to be. It's where all the articles are going to be. So the only reason I recommend people change, or when choose C# when they're choosing for the first time, is that's where the articles are, that's where the help is, that's where the focus and effort is put. So if you want, the best chance at success, use C#. Not to say either language is better than the other, because again, it comes down to preference. But if you haven't made a choice, and it would be the same to you, pick the one that has more articles and questions answered and things like that. You can't wait for .NET 5. You want to play with the source generators? Oh yes, the source generators look awesome. You'd be interested in a PR? It is in pre. Would you be interested in a PR? Simon, a PR. Interested in a PR of what? I wonder. You mean this stuff that I'm doing here? Like sending me a PR for this? I would love a PR for this. If you mean, do I want to make a PR into something else? Maybe. Oh yeah. Okay, so Fuel Snable. I consider C# and VB to be like the two primary languages of .NET Framework of old, and yes, F#. I usually think of that more as like, yeah, that's like an alternate path. It's not, it's because it's a different approach. It's a different type of language. So generally, people that are going to take F# are going to choose the functional programming approach. But yes, you are correct. A PR of the MVVM framework into the bot. Oh, we absolutely could use that in here, Simon. So I would not mind using an MVVM framework. Do they have some timeline on when it's out of when it's not going to just be preview bits? I'm not sure what they've mentioned about it. Yeah, I might want to wait a little bit just so that we don't get the churn of like a big flip. So, which also might then mean that we should focus a little bit less on all of the getting all the MVVM goodness exactly the way that we want it, because we know that we're going to pick up a framework for it once it's not preview. So just thinking out loud here. Okay, so this is supposed to read the plugins folder. I think maybe I should make this so that it gets the settings again. Because I think that would be a good idea. In case someone wanted to store their plugins somewhere else. Okay, anyway. Let's have a look at where these get created. So this is so I mentioned that the plugin screen is not wired up. And yes, F# is very fringe. Nice, Simon. That's not that far away, actually. Okay, so right now I am just loading the plugin collection right here. It's obviously just fake. Let's load in the commands view model and see what I did with this one. So this is bound to the command set, is what this one is. So I want this to be bound to the plugin set. Private read-only. Yeah, I did create a plugin set. Nice. Go me. I like when I do stuff like that and I do things in a predictable way. Set myself up for success. Okay, so this is going to be, instead of custom commands, it's going to be that. This is going to be a plugin set. It doesn't have custom commands, it has plugins. We're going to use a binding list instead of an observable collection. There are a couple of differences between how binding lists and observable collections work. We want to use the binding collection for this, and I'm not going to get into the details of which one of what they each do differently. Just know that in this case, because we're using the binding list, changes to the objects are going to be detected on this, whereas with the observable collection it wasn't. But I won't get into any of the specifics more than that. If they said the latest preview 8 is feature... I think they said the latest preview 8 is feature complete. Ooh, that's actually really good to know, helpful stranger. Ah, okay, Simon, I got it. So they're throwing the preview tag on not because it's super volatile, but just because they did a vertical slice and they didn't get the whole thing. Yeah, it could be that because they're probably basing it on what some of the other frameworks have done in the past, so they're not expecting big changes, because they're probably just revving on existing ideas. So this is plugins. This needs to come in through the constructor. There we go. Do I need to do anything like that? This one passed in those values. Why didn't that one do that? Oh, it doesn't have... because it's not one of these ones. Okay. Plugins is not a binding list. It is a collection. Where is this used? Just in the test, mostly? Yeah, that's just used in the test, it looks like. Use a binding list of plugin info. And that should be enough. Now when I go to the implementation, we'll make that a binding list. What uses the base set? Is this the only thing? The message handler set does also. Oh, well. Oh, I did it like that because I wanted to do a hash set to make sure that we didn't have duplicates? Well, that's silly. Why did I do that? I didn't think about the fact that we needed this to be a collection. Yep, that's you. It's just bug fixes on .NET 5 now. Oh, well, if they're basically in like, if they're at the point where there's not a whole bunch of instability and they're basically calling it done, not done, but like stable at this point in terms of the structure, the types and everything like that, then yes, I would be totally cool with using it. The main thing that I try to avoid with grabbing like the preview bits is that churn of like, oh, they changed the way this works, now you have to reconnect all these things. No, they changed the way that works, now you have to go and adjust all this. So we try to avoid that because that makes for really poor content on a stream. Okay, let's see if this change compiles and whether or not it breaks a bunch of tests. So previously we were basically just using a collection. So in theory we can still use the same collection. I tried to keep it super simple before, but I realized that when I get to the implementation on the UI side, I need a more advanced type. So this is what we're getting. No simple abstraction on that. The base type is going to have that, and there we go. There's our plugin set. And when we look at this, it has the plugins available. Let's take a look at the plugin view. We're going to take a look at the XAML side, because I want to see what I'm binding to here in this collection. Why is that not loaded? Reload the designer? Nope. Okay. Well, it claims I've got an error in here. What error, I don't know. Plugins. Okay, so now when I run this, I am fully expecting empty collection on that view if it runs at all. We might get a runtime error inside the XAML. Let's find out. Oh, empty collection. Nice. Okay. Well, that's good, because we shouldn't have any... we should not have any there. Okay. Bonk. Crash. Hang on one sec. There we go. Okay, we're gonna have all kinds of issues, technical and otherwise, for a little while on the stream because I am. We moved into a new space, so should be good. Okay, so that kind of worked. Let's look at the way that this initializes. So we have this plugin initialization. Mike, I don't think, no, mic's on. Oh, good, it's working. Good, sounds good, feel stable. Thanks for the heads up. Okay, so we have these pieces. I think this is the piece that we did a bunch of unit tests on. Thanks, Nightmare. Match these on more than just folder name is consistent. Yeah. Okay. So essentially what we did here in the to-do comment is basically right now the way we're determining what a plugin is, like uniqueness is based on unique names. So obviously that's not going to work because two people might create plugins with the same name. So in order to avoid that problem, we will have to do more for uniqueness than just that. Okay, so plugins folder. Why don't we create the plugins folder and try reading it? That way we can at least read in that there was a folder there, and we can start working on getting those plugins read. So instead of just returning back new list, why don't we actually read that folder and then we can put something in it and see what happens. Let's say directory get files. Actually, do we want the files? We want get directories. So let's say that that plugins need to be inside of folders in their folder. Kenshi, no, I do not have my courses aren't on LinkedIn Learning right now, but you can find them on DevIQ and Pluralsight both. So, and I have some more that are planned for those. So, let's say for now, plugins. Bring in through settings. Okay, so we will grab all the folder names. Okay, so we're going to read the plugins folder and return back that list. Okay, so I mentioned that we should say folder name from the settings. So the reason I mentioned that we should do it from the settings, and obviously pulling these kinds of things in from the settings are a good idea generally. We should default it to the plugins folder because I think that's going to be a good structure. Most people are going to understand that when there's a plugins folder inside of your application, that you drop plugins there, and that's where you set that up. The reason why we are going to want to have people be able to pull it from somewhere else is, let's say that they had some large plugin, someone did some weird thing with video, who knows what. It makes it so that someone can put that literally anywhere in their system as long as they do that. Now, obviously, I understand that you can use virtual directories and weird stuff like that in order to achieve the same kind of result. However, by just letting them configure it in the settings, they can put it wherever they want, and we could make these settings configurable through the application if we want. So, the point being, for now, settings. Microsoft stock went up a bunch. I'm not surprised, Root Guy. Their stock tends to go up because they... even when in the consumer market their product doesn't succeed, Microsoft has been really good over the years about breadth of technology that they're in. So their operating systems did well for a long time. Their Office products did well for a time. They've never made a ton on their hardware. They currently make a good amount on Surface and things like that. Their cloud investments have been very good. So there's a wide variety of stuff. Their phones didn't pick up, but even on phones, okay, yeah, they didn't grab the phone market, but they're doing fine on laptops. They're doing fine with desktop computers. They're doing fine in businesses. They're doing fine with essentially web and cloud tech. So, stock is in stock market. I believe so, helpful stranger. Stock is in the shares of the company that are exchanged on the stock market. Yeah, if you are doing I.O., isn't async await desirable? Yes, Fuel Snap, we probably should just async await this, shouldn't we? We're just reading the folder names, but yes. Can I not, does it not do that? Is there not an async version of these? Maybe it's a different way, I forget what it is. But in the cases you don't async await, makes sense. Windows Phone 7 you like? Yeah. I also did like the Windows Phone operating system. I thought it was nice. The biggest complaint that I have about that I had about the Windows Phone platform is just that it doesn't have the apps, which is sort of like a chicken and egg problem, in that it won't get them until it has the users. It won't get the users until it has them. So it's essentially the spot that Microsoft caught themselves in, and the other companies, of course, did everything they could to prevent Microsoft from getting their apps, including not only not making the Apple and Google and etc. apps for them, for that platform, but then also when Microsoft built them themselves, they would block them and make them not even work. So it was the biggest backstab ever. And they're like, oh no, we have a policy about that you have to follow. And it's like, wait, you don't follow that same policy. You don't make them follow that policy. What's the deal? It's almost like you just don't want to have a competitor here. Let's see, that's the underlying operation support overlap async await. Let me have a look, because I don't remember what it is. So, all right, developers, look, everybody hits Google. It's totally fine. Async for file access. Do they actually have it or not? We haven't gone, and so my plan was to do a whole bunch of synchronous stuff and then go and async the whole project all at once, because I find that usually works a little bit better. Because we have a handful of things that can't async, and it gets weird when like I want to be able to make the decision of this is a background process that we don't want to stop on. This is like, you know, part of the thing, and I want to be able to think that through. We're probably far enough along where that decision can be made, and we should add async in around now. At the beginning, I didn't want to deal with it because I wasn't sure totally how the application was going to function, and so I wanted to figure that out first. So that is writing. That's reading text. Yeah. That's. Yeah, well, I don't see it for now, so I'm going to leave it like this today. It should be really quick. We shouldn't really notice it. And you're right, eventually it should async. So we'll add the to-do for it. To-do, file system access should likely all be async. All right. I agree. Let's put that there. Okay, so that'll pull that out. So we're looking for a plugins folder. So essentially, any folder we put in the plugins folder in this project should get that. So let's open up the UI project. Whoops, let's open up the UI project in File Explorer. And then we are going to go into the bin debug folder, .NET Core. And if I make a plugins folder, plugins, and then in here I make Hello World. So there's a Hello World folder in here. That is it. That's the only thing. Let's run our project and let's just see, do we have Hello World as a plugin? Let's go. Let's do it. Hey, there it is. Okay, so a couple of things to note. Whoops. Couple of things to note. First off, it prefixed with a plugin folder in here, so you'll notice it says plugins Hello World and plugin, and the path is plugins Hello World. So we need to figure out why that's getting added and chop it. But otherwise, that looks right. I think I want to change what we default for version. For if we just found it in a folder, I think we should look for a metadata file to be there and do something based on that. So maybe we should create some concept of what a metadata file looks like and read one of those. Not sure. Greetings, leading lady, welcome. And yes, I think the teal looks nice. That's a good one. I do also want to upgrade my stream so that I've got the color actually control. I want to make that control more color on the stream instead of just those little pieces. I'm hoping to get some highlights somewhere on somewhere in the background so that we've got a little bit more interesting control. But yeah, should be a good one. And welcome everyone. You've probably noticed my audio, video, and everything like that is a little weird. I'm in a new office. I have moved, so fun stuff. So that registers the complete ones. That's not ours. Create records for the new ones. So that's this. Create records for the new plugins. So to do, check for metadata file. That I think is going to be a big one. Checking for a metadata file at that point, I think is going to be a nice way to have these set up. This is a string, isn't it? Because I think we're just going to let people decide how they want to do their own version numbering. Okay, so at this point, I think we're at a good spot to have a commit, because basically what we said was the code that we unit tested and built does seem to function. We've seen it run like live now and actually bring back the data. So it read from the file system, loaded in these items, and displayed it on the page exactly as we expected. So wire up the plugin set. Excellent. To UI. Okay, so we have that. The metadata file is going to add one other thing for us. So, in addition to helping us get a name correct, the metadata can get us a couple of other pieces. It can tell us what kind of plugin it is. So we could add that metadata file to, we could say that's the piece you need to add to some plugins that are not of our type and are like imports from another bot. So if we're, for example, going to pull a plugin that was supposed to run on another bot and we want to change, basically have it work in ours, we might require that you use our metadata to let us know what kind of plugin it is, essentially. There is no async method for reading the directories. Can't you make it return a task so that you run it on another thread and await it on the UI side? Yes. To answer that question, yes, we can absolutely just make it a task, make it async, do it there, and then essentially toss it on another thread so that the UI is not held up while we do that. Yep, that is correct. I just thought that they would have one in .NET Core. I'm just kind of surprised they don't have it. So that seems like one of the features that would be in .NET Core and not .NET Standard, because .NET Framework might not have one, but I would think .NET Core would. So, but yes, you're correct. We can just wrap it essentially in our own task and do it like the old-fashioned way. Okay, so that'll get us one of these. That'll tell us how to run it as well. I think right now we are just assuming that everything is our type. So let's just make the plugin runtime be the chatter plugin for now. To do read from meta or default to unknown. That's a good point. I should add an unknown on here. We'll make that 0, that 1, and that 2. Which, actually, we will have it default to unknown. To do read from metadata. Actually, all of those are going to read from metadata, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay. So that gave us back the folders. So let's read our folder reading code again. So if we take a look at our directory reader, right here we did get directories and came back with plugins. I want to stop here and we're going to try a couple of other things. So I'm going to toss in a breakpoint. We're going to go to an intermediate window, and I want to look at essentially the directory information that gives us back about this directory when we're running this. So actually, let's go to there, because why not? Here's what I mean. So the directories comes back with plugins, hello world. That is not exactly what I want. So Directory info is the thing I want, right? Directory. Let's say, oh, what does move do? Move a file or directory to, okay, so that'll move it around. Get directories. So I've got plugins and www.root are the only directories available to me. And if I do this one, unable to evaluate the expression because the code is optimized or a native frame is on top of the call stack. What? So because I already called it there? Well, I'm mildly confused by that. Pause and run that. Unable to evaluate the expression. Huh. Very confused. Yeah, I might have to if the immediate window doesn't play nice. Directory, get directories, and that directory, new directory info, that, other. So if I create a new directory info from the full path, which is what that is, then I could yank the name off of it. That's true. I could also put it in like a path object, right? Kind of thing. So let's do this. So if we're gonna do this part, I want this bit of the code to actually be, well, I would like it to be somewhat testable, even though it would be using a directory info object. But for now, I'll just do this. Dir path. New directory info path name. Print, that's how, Fuel Sample, I'm surprised you do print. I figured a lot of people here did console log. That was a joke, because console log is basically the same as print. Never mind. Okay, so if we do this, in theory, it should print out Hello World instead when we go to the Plugins tab. Hello World, yay. Okay. So that gets us the directory name instead of the full path to the directory. Once we have those, then inside of plugin initialization, so flag missing plugins, we created new records for those ones. What called this? It's got called here. Oops. Did anything call this plugin initialization? Yes. AppXAML did. There we go. Okay, so inside of AppXAML, initialize the plugins. We are saying get service of that, call initialize, and then after we do that, okay, so initialize the plugin did not actually, well, initialize all the plugins. We gave it the service provider, so it can... So at this point, all collections that it would need access to exist. Welcome. Sale? I'm gonna go with Sale. Welcome to the stream. You have a code snippet where I did this a year ago. Can you post a link here? It's a Poor Man's IOC implementation. I mean, I've done plenty of Poor Man's IOC. It's actually how I used to teach IOC a long time ago. I would just build IOC, but sure. Let me remit. I think that's how I do it. There you go, Code with Sean. And if you need me to do that again, let me know and I will. What did you do? Ah, yes. So you went through all of your assemblies. And you did a just a quick read of your plugins. Yep. Yeah. See, that's a much better way to do that. You looked for DLLs. We want directories in ours. I wonder. That actually does make me wonder on this one. If we did something similar, if we did not exactly that, but if we did this, so we don't want files, we want plugins dir. Can we get directories? Yeah. So if we did this, essentially, we'd be right back where you are. But looking it up in a slightly nicer way. And actually, I don't think we'd path combine. I think we'd just do this and just go straight to plugins. Because we want this to come from a configuration. So, in case they didn't do a relative path. Well, actually, if they do it that way and they did a relative path, they might be able to get away with that. Greetings, Sil. Welcome. Awesome, helpful stranger. Thanks for looking into that. To do, make async. There we go. Okay, so if we take this approach, yeah, because you were suggesting that, whoops. Basically going through grabbing files and returning back all the assemblies that are DLL files, which is likely what we're gonna want to do out of the directory info. In theory, we could make this return back a directory info instead of a string, and then you don't have to do this, and then you could just do .toList. And we could have a list of these, and we can go in here and do that as well. And then this should have a couple of references somewhere, which does bleed the system.io concept a little bit if we go this route, because then we do need to know about system.io being a thing out at this level, which maybe isn't the worst. It's a good question. We might we either need to let directory info be known beyond this assembly, or we need to wrap this a little bit to make it a little easier to work with without exposing that dependency beyond this point. Okay. Yeah, separation. It's separation. Yeah, well, separation of concerns, separation of dependencies, whatever you want to call it. Same basic thing. The principle's the same regardless. Just wrap it in AutoMap. Yeah, that is a solution. Okay, for now I'll just leave it returning back the name since we're not doing much with it. So we'll leave it as the name. Yeah, and this basically is what we're going to be doing is we're going to do something kind of like this. So you're going and grabbing them and the thing you're looking for from your assembly. We're going to look for the plugin initialization class that should exist in there. If you take a look inside of our plugins folder here, you'll see that we have the simple commands plugin. Should have here it is. This class that's implementing iPlugin, which for now I think gets run somewhere. Got it. Here's where it is being run. So it is getting initialized in this, but what we want to do is instead reverse this a little bit, have this get found and run instead. Does it need to return a list? Why not an I enumerable and let the caller decide if they want a list? Yeah, so helpful stranger, we just had it in there as a list. You are correct. The better type is an I enumerable. We had a list originally, which is why it's a list. It doesn't really make a difference to a point. So what I like, so let's talk about abstractions. So there's a couple of things with abstractions. What I like doing with an abstraction is I want to make things as easy as possible for whomever it is that is calling my code. Now let's talk about what's easy. In a parameter, the easiest thing is to go with the simplest abstraction possible that I can accept. So, for example, I'll just make a quick class so we can talk about this. So we're going to make abstraction discussion. So, if we have a do something method, and in this I need to have some kind of set of data. I need multiple items, right? Let's say it's numbers. So I need you to give me a set of numbers. So I could say, yep, give me a list of integers and we'll call it numbers, right? Totally normal method. Okay, so then in numbers, I'm going to say, I don't know, for each, number in the numbers, do something. Right? So we're going to do something. So that is easy, obvious, great. The problem with this code is that I have now required that any caller pass me a list. Now, what I said is when I discuss abstractions and things like this, I want to make the life of the caller as easy as possible so that anyone calling my method doesn't have much work to do. But I still want them to give me the right thing. So maybe I want to be able to take an array. Okay, if I change this from a list to an iList, this code works the same. They could pass me an array, they could pass me a list, works totally fine. I don't see a difference. I could simplify and say, you know what, I don't need a list, it could just be a collection. So collection is a simpler interface, and it will provide me with, I at least know that this is a collection of data, and I could, for example, for each multiple times. So if I have to essentially enumerate over the collection multiple times, which is what this is doing, because see, I'm going over this collection multiple times. Maybe I have some reason for it. Don't worry about it. I'm sure that you have written code where you have gotten the warning about enumerating a collection multiple times. That's what I'm doing. Pretend that I had a real reason to do it and not just a comment of do something here, do something here. What that means is if I were to take an IEnumerable of integers, I'm now getting this warning. And the warning is saying, possible multiple enumeration. So the reason it's saying it, if the user gives me a list or an array as the type, then I enumerate the list multiple times. Enumerating a list or an array is not a big deal. You're just walking over the list twice. If, however, your enumerable requires work to create, then enumerating it twice is a bad thing. So an enumerable just means that you can essentially ask for the next item. So an enumerable just means you can have a current item and ask for the next item. That's basically all it is. I'm simplifying a little bit, but that's the basic concept. What that means is it's not necessarily a collection, hence why iCollection exists. So what we essentially get here is a simple way of understanding this. We have a simple way of essentially thinking about these types. So I recommend, in this case, that we do an iCollection. They can give us almost anything. We can enumerate it. We just want to be able to walk over each item twice. Easy. If we were only walking it once, and we knew we weren't going to enumerate it twice, then I would say you're going to accept an IEnumerable, of which a list or an array would both work. So yes, Crows, you're asking exactly the question I'm trying to get into, which is an IEnumerable just says get me the next item. So there are some IEnumerables that are created. So for example, I could do a calculation that returns back an IEnumerable of integer and make numbers might be what it's called. And in it, I can do I could say yield return I. Okay, and this creates an IEnumerable. So literally when you call this, it's going to come in here, it's going to run this loop, it's going to return back the first number, and then it's going to come back in the loop, it's going to return back the next number. This makes an enumerable. I could pass this to the other method and it will work, which is a scary thought when you think about it. Like, because I went up to int max value, so this is a really, really big for loop. It's going to run for a long time. I could actually do the same thing with generating random numbers forever. I could do a while true return random number. If, however, I wanted you to give me a collection and I was going to modify it, if I wanted to do change the collection, that's what my method is, then I might do something like this. Numbers.add. Oh, IEnumerable doesn't have an add. I could do ilist. And ilist, I believe, does have an add. So I'm going to add 7 onto the list. Okay? And so because I have an ilist, I'm allowed to do this. But an iCollection... Oh, iCollection has it too. But IEnumerable certainly doesn't. Because an IEnumerable doesn't even have a concept that there is really even a set. Okay, so I can add to it. Awesome. I could have done that if I had list. But the difference is when I have lists, they can't give me an array. So essentially I'm being nice to the caller and saying, I didn't really need it to be a list. I didn't really need it to be an array. Give me whatever you have and I'll work with it. Okay? So that makes it so that they don't have to do any extra effort and they can just give it to me and I'm fine. Okay, so let's talk about the reverse because this is actually what sparked the conversation. Because pretty much everybody you talk to is going to agree on this case that, yes, you take in the iCollection because that's all you needed. So go with the simplest abstraction that handles the case that you currently need. So when all I had was the single for each loop, all I required was an IEnumerable. As soon as I was going to do more than that, I need to upgrade my interface to something that requires more. Okay, let's talk about return values. When I'm returning something, let's start with an IEnumerable. Get names. There you go, Sean. Welcome to the group. Simon. And who else is in the list? Crows. Okay. So, these are essentially a set of names that can get returned. I'm returning it as an IEnumerable. So, what's the problem? Well, there are a couple of them. Let's have a look at what happens when I use this list. So let's say that this was, we'll pretend this is a different method, and I'm going to call getNames. So I call getNames, and I get a variable. And we'll call it names, right? And then I'm going to say for each names, name, and then I'm going to do for each names, name. Okay, so what's going on here? What I end up with is possible multiple enumeration. Why? Because I know that I'm returning back a list. It's right here. I know it's a list. Well, the problem is, because I only specified IEnumerable, it's not actually a list. Now, technically, this person could say, well, if they need a list, they can make it a list. Yeah, they can. But it already was a list, so they didn't need to do that. Maybe I had a list and they did a to-array, right? Because they're like, oh, I need something that I can enumerate multiple times, so I'll to-array it, right? But it was a list, and now they're actually changing it from a list to an array pointlessly because they didn't know the type. And so they just wrote it that way. but I knew I was giving them a list. So I could give them a list. The point being, if I give them a list and I tell them it's a list, then they can do things like check the count instead of the length. They can add, they can insert, they can use the for each method that's directly on it. They can use the sorting options that are available on the list, as long as they know it's a list. The nice thing is, if you ever need to pass it to something that needs an IEnumerable of string, or an ICollection of string, or an IList of string, it'll work. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm providing the most value to the person that calls and asks for something. So when I give you something back, I'm going to give you a concrete type, as long as that concrete type is not exposing some kind of dependency or something like that. Taking a dependency on the .NET framework and its classes, its generic collections, is never a problem. Having a dependency on list is not an issue. Because this could be a list or an array and it doesn't make a difference. And it's fine. But I've essentially given power to the caller, because they could immediately say, like, they could be like, names.sort, right? And I can sort that right now. Whereas if I had instead given them back an IEnumerable, they can't call sort. Sort doesn't exist. So imagine if they two-arrayed it. Well, they still don't have that same sort, because array sort is different. So not only have they changed all the items, they've changed the type, they've changed the collection, they've created a new object, when I could have just told them it was a list from the beginning. So that, essentially, end of rant. The thing that I like to do is I like to give people as much information as possible. So if I'm giving you something, I'm going to tell you what it is so you can use it. If I'm asking you for something, I'm going to say, here's all I need. I don't care what you had. Just give me whatever it is. Yes. So, for example, Code with Sean is talking about a different case. That is something different and very related. So that is an awesome point. So sometimes you do not want someone to be able to change it. So the challenge is that, and here's where that falls apart. If you want to prevent someone from changing it and you give back an IEnumerable, they can just toList and change it, which ruins the protection that you had, because they can still change it. So if you wanted to prevent that, you didn't technically prevent it. But what you can do is do like a read-only collection, for example. You could do like, this is a read-only list of string, and then if they want to, they can't modify, like it's essentially like I'm saying, no, this is a read-only collection. So you can use the items in it, but I don't want you to change the collection. Keep in mind that read-only collection does not make the items read-only, it makes the collection read-only. So that is an important distinction for everyone to note. There is, if you grab an item off the read-only collection, you can still modify that item. So there are other types as well, other than like a read-only list, but you can essentially return back a type that is not the one that they want to modify. So when I do that, Sean, if I need to have like, here's the editing one and here's the non-editing one, I usually put it somewhere else, or I make a property that gives them access to do it. So for example, if I wanted to have like get names for editing, for example, it would be like list of string, and I would do like get names for editing. Right, and then these would both hit the same collection, but I would make a property like this so that I can easily check the references right here, and I can be mindful of who is using this collection to make modifications, because if I really did need to essentially bend the rules a little bit and modify a collection of another object, I want to at least be able to track where that's happening. So that's essentially the reason why I break those apart, is because I like to know, okay, I bent the rules here. Let me at least know where I bent the rules so that I can make sure that it doesn't get out of control and I can track it down and fix the problem to try and rein it in a little bit. Okay. So I just wanted to jump into that little discussion because I do think that it's important to realize that as developers, we're all told all the time, to use the interface and the abstraction and blah blah blah, and use the simplest set. And yes, for parameters you're receiving, I agree. For the ones you're giving out, it depends, and you should think about it. So, but generally, when providing stuff, I like to provide the most useful thing that I can for just a caller that's going to need data. If I'm doing like if I'm building an aggregate of some kind that is going to expose some data, yes, read-only collections, read-only lists are a great way of making sure that the other things are not modifying it. That being said, that is a lot nicer to give them than say an IEnumerable. And part of the reason is that if my IEnumerable was really just a wrapper around an actual collection, so say a list, then the caller could technically just cast that as a list and use it. And it probably works, and they can probably edit it. So you didn't really save yourself if they did that. Yep, no problem. Glad you liked it, Code Deshaun. I love getting into explanations of things. It is DevChatter, and for a reason. We're going to be talking here. People are often like, wow, you didn't get much stuff done on that one. I'm like, yeah, I went on a rant in that episode, and we talked about stuff. It was fun. We had a good discussion about coding and, some interesting topics. It's like, which means we didn't write the code, which is fine. We're here to write code and talk about code. I like code. I hope you do too. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I want to figure out how. So I want this build project to take our plugin and put it in a plugins folder automatically. Hey, Paman, welcome. And yes, exactly. When you get the multiple iterations warning and the collection was a list or an array or something like that, it was a more advanced type. I agree. I get annoyed by the fact that it was an IEnumerable to begin with, because I'm like, it didn't have to be that. I didn't need to get that warning. I didn't need to call toList or toArray or whatever. It really was that type to begin with. Like, what's the type? Tell me what it is, or at least tell me a better, like, give me back an iList or an iCollection then if you want to avoid the actual type and give an interface. Give a better interface. Because in that case, I also could have returned an iList. And yes, there are some things that you can do with an IEnumerable you can't do with others. But either way, in a lot of cases, it's easier just to give the actual type or something close. Hopeful Stranger, you can actually use link on non-IEnumerable types, because all the other types implement IEnumerable, so it works on those as well. So essentially, you can use all the link expressions on. You can use all of them on the iList or the iCollection or the iRead-only collection. Link still works on all those. It tends to return back only an IEnumerable because it's going to do the operation. So when you do a bunch of link, at the end, as long as you resolve the type into a list or an array or something like that, you won't enumerate it twice. So those link statements will run multiple times if you save the variable still as the IEnumerable. Oh yeah. So the reason why link does it that way is that it doesn't have to resolve it until the end, because essentially it tweaks how it chains things. So Helpful Strange is a light theme user? Oh, okay. Yep, there are a lot of light theme users out there. Okay, so let's see if we can't build this to do what we want it to do. Build events. On success, when the build updates the project output. I think I'm going to be a coward and just say successful build. Yeah, so the funny thing about that is on projector screens I use light themes, but for regular monitors I use dark themes. I used to go the other way. No, well, not totally the other way. I used to use light themes everywhere, but yes, it really depends. And yeah. Okay. Oh. Can I just change the... can I just... I'm thinking I might be... Oh, yes, it's just in there. Okay. Okay, I don't need anything in the runtime post build. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm thinking I want to change just where it gets built to. And so here's my thought. Simon, yes, you are correct. On some things, it will break CI/CD. Keep in mind that I want the plugins to be almost like not required parts of the application, so they're entirely optional. So yes, we do want to figure out how to make that work, and you're right. Whoops, I did not mean to click that button. No, stop. Visual Studio. Oh. I'll just wait for you, Visual Studio. I wasn't doing anything. Don't mind me. Okay. Let's see. Source. Simple commands. So the output directory. So if I go up a level, it's here, up another level, and then into the UI project. I don't know if I need double slashes. I'll have to figure out that. One option might be to use if, then do what you're going to do, that we call a script so you have a placeholder script on CI. Yeah, Simon, there might be a way to do that. I'm in a separate branch right now, so we can still figure it out. So inside of UI, then bin, debug. Yeah. I almost want to say, like, grab the build folder of another project. Because I really don't want it to be in that, but let's try this and see what happens. First off, I'm wondering how did I put that in there? Oh, there we go. That's kind of funny. So in the debug any CPU configuration, which we'll want to adjust that. That's not how we want it to be long term. But let's see if it put it in the right place. No, doesn't look like it. Nope, I need to go up another level. Oh, I missed a dot there. That's why. That was all. Dark theme at night isn't going to be better for your eyes. It's still a screen in the dark. One option might be to use... oh, yeah. Bin, debug, core, plugins, simple commands. All right, but it put it inside of that folder. How do I get it to not do that? It might not be a way. So essentially what I was thinking is, how do I get this to just drop it in here so it automatically knows that this one is here and like is automatically just updating this one every time we run it so that it's always here. So the plugin is essentially just updating as we build it. Oh, that's not the one I was looking for. I apparently don't have that window open still. C# output path without runtime folder. Stop adding framework target. Yes, that. Yes, this is what I want. Pen target framework to output path. So I should be able to do that. It looks like. So I'm going to delete the folder. We'll build again and have a look at what happens. Hey, there we go. Okay, so that's what we want. So now when we build that, it puts its output over in this project. This is not a good way to do this long term. It's an okay, like, for now, way of making this happen. Because essentially here's the spot that we're in. I want to have a couple of sample plugins that we're building with the project that are just available in there. And so when we're in our solution, it's automatically going to be including them. And as we build and work on them, it's going to put them in there as well. I think that's a nice approach for making sure that some basic functionality is done as plugins instead of being built in. So our simple commands are plugins, not a built-in feature, but that over time what we're going to be doing is, as we develop it, we don't have to like have some weird like, yeah, run this thing and that. It's like, no, I just want the build to just put it in the right place and make it work. So as long as that works, we're good. Okay, so that gives us our next step, which is to add in some kind of metadata or something like that. We can also then find and run the plugin, the command plugin, because we should be able to find its library. So it included all the DLLs that it actually needs in order to run, because it thinks it needs to have that. same question that I asked before. Don't include reference DLLs in output. No, I want the opposite of that. It's funny. It's like, oh, this is they're not getting put in here. Like, no. I want the opposite of this. I want to get rid of them. An alternative would be to have the logic that discovers plugins to additionally check for plugins in descendant references of the entry point assembly or all loaded assemblies with the same root names. Yeah, so the catch there is, Simon, that they're not going to be referenced, because what I want to have happen, I want these to run the same way for me that it would run for everyone else. So I don't want like the fact that we're running the whole project through Visual Studio to make any difference. I want it to essentially work the same way. Is kind of the idea. Hey, that's rad. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. That's rad and friends. I'll welcome you all in a second. I'm assuming you're all getting an ad or something. Here. It's not beer, but you can I'm willing to share. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Greetings, Raiders. We are looking into... I'm trying to make it so that our CS project build doesn't, for a certain project, does not is copying to a relative path. The post-build step is safe. Yeah. So Simon, one option would be to just grab the specific DLL and just literally copy that DLL over into a folder, and that should be fine. So welcome, everyone. Welcome. That's Red Cullen. Greetings, Raiders. So essentially, here's what we're doing. When I build this project, I'm having it copy it. I'm having it use a different output directory. And yes, the relative folder structure should be the exact same on CI as it is here. So it should not make a difference. So what do we want to do? I guess let's change the way we were going to do. So we did this. We tried this approach, but I think I'm going to go back to build events, because then I can just copy the one file. So let's talk what the challenge is. So essentially what's happening is I want to get so that we don't have to include any additional references that we don't need. I only want to copy the required file. So in this case, if I just say, instead of changing the output path over to that location, I make this the place that we're going to copy it to. And I go over to the build event and I say, like, copy. I wonder where I am at this point. I don't know where we are in terms of like the current directory inside of post build event command line. But it's like simple commands.dll to that directory. And I guess I could move instead of copying, right? But I'll copy so that we have one here. Yeah, so we have built a bunch of, we did our first chatbot here on Twitch a little over 2.5 years ago. And we want to replace it with a nicer, newer one. So, Colin, specifically what we're building is we're trying to make a modular bot. And essentially, the reason we want to make it modular is we want people to be able to write the custom code for this bot in C# or Python or JavaScript or whatever language they want to use. And essentially, then we will just, read in and run it and basically provide it the information. So, like, you know, if you have multiple plugins that need to be able to talk and communicate and work back and forth and share data and other stuff, like they can, and they don't all have to be written in the same language or by the same developers or anything like that. So, Colin, what language? So, not C#, but what language are you usually building in? And yes, so the funny thing is, Peak, this would be like the fifth or sixth bot that I've built on stream in some capacity. So you are right, but like yes, we did one a long time ago. Oh yes, you are absolutely correct. Yeah, I guess I could. You know what? I'm just gonna try this because I think there's a good chance that we are in that directory. Will it run on Linux? So, Peak, not yet, but it will. So this bot will run on Linux and on Windows, and probably it'll certainly run on Mac and Windows, and probably run on Linux. Wait, what? Oh. Hey. Oh, that's convenient that they have those there. Thank you. Do they have the DLL here? I guess that could be project name. Okay, and I don't have a shortcut for where that goes is the problem, because I can't know where that one is. Actually, hang on. That might be the name. Target name is the one I wanted, not project name. Target name, that, and this ends up being target name, and then this one ends up being project name again. Output directory, target name, DLL, that, plugins, project name, target name, DLL. Did the project name of the... So neither one of those has a slash, so I had to add it in. The output directory does have a slash, so I don't need it there. That has a slash before, that has a slash after, that has a dot. Hey, there we go. Excellent. Target path is DLL, then start from solution directory for the destination. Ooh, that's a good idea. That is a good idea. Because if we start from the solution directory and then go into UI, then that is a great way to do it. Directory, not the path. So we're going to start from the solution directory. And it does have a closing slash. So then UI bin debug that. Okay. That looks good. So first things first, let's go over here. We're going to delete this project. Let's run it and see what we get. So the question of whether or not this would run on Linux, this is going to be, it will be a .NET MAUI project when we can. So that is all like early preview, doesn't exist yet. When that framework comes out, we will port this over to it. And at that point, we will be able to run on Windows, Linux, Mac, potentially even be running on mobile and other things like that. But for now, we are Windows only while we're developing it today, but it will be there eventually. Target path is the full path to the DLL? Really? Does it have the .dll on the end, I wonder? Let's have a quick look again at it in the nice example that they gave us. Yep, it does. Excellent. Target path over to that solution. Okay. Let's build and see what happens. We had an error the first time I tried building, but let's see what that error is. I didn't actually read it the first time because I knew I had other changes to make. The command, copy, exited with code 1. What did I try to copy? edev, DevChatter, simple plugins, .dll. Okay, so that looks right. Do I have output from the build? System cannot find the path specified for this path. Well, let's find out what's there. So there's a folder. That seems to be there. Huh. Oh, maybe it's the output. I bet it's the output. Hang on. Create directory. One of those flags has got to do it. Run the command from the output window in a DOS prompt. That's true. I could just run that command right now. This one. Which actually, I guess it doesn't matter where I run it, does it? Could not find part of the path. DLL? directory not found exception on the destination would be my guess. But what's it doing? So I was thinking, where did I put my window? Did I close that window? I must have closed that window. Yep, this is what I want to do. Well, I could X copy. Wait, if you do a move, it'll create it? Oh, okay. Never mind. So yeah, they're right. I could create it and then copy it. /y switch. Thank you. Yeah, see, that's what I was originally trying to find. So I was like, there's got to be a way to do this. Which /what? Suppress the prompting to confirm that you want to overwrite an existing destination file. So yes, we'll do a /y. Copy /y, because we don't want that message. Yeah, I need to do an if the directory is there. Which is this. Which essentially means this piece here, which I should put into a variable instead of doing this. Output. Get that. Hop back over into the command line. I forgot the double ampersand to tell it to actually combine the commands. You know, I'm going to add that and then run it again to get the command. It's a pain to adjust it there. I should put that in a variable, but I didn't. Yeah, I should just make a... Yeah, exactly. I need to make a thing that... Ugh. Okay, reload the project. Yes, close that. Reload the project. I have this on my clipboard. And yes, we just need to make a little PowerShell script that does this, and then that'll be way easier, and we can even pass in these values as the variables to it, and that would be great. Okay, so if not exists, do that. Okay, where is my project file? Right here. Simple commands, and one DLL in it. Yes! Okay, there we go. Finally. Stupid thing exists. Yay. Let's see if it shows up in the list of plugins when we run this. Hello World and Simple Commands. Okay, and both listed as unknown, which is fine. They sort of are right now. And then when we enable it, it should suddenly start running, is the theory. Since we don't have the data saved, it's not able to run just yet. Okay, well. Yeah, I am glad it's working too. Okay, so this is like temporary deployment of plugin deployment build. It's a temporary plugin deployment. For now, just copies the for now, just copies the simple commands DLL into the plugins folder. Next step is running it from there. Okay, excellent. Yay, it works. Alrighty then. Well, I hate to wrap one of these early, but I'm going to, as I have a bunch of stuff to do. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, you'll notice a lot of changes. The audio is different, the lighting is different, everything is different. I'm in a totally new space. I have moved, and as such, I need to get back to finish moving, as I have a lot of stuff I still need to get unpacked and everything like that. So, yay, we're in a new space, which hopefully means our streams will be back to somewhat normalcy in the coming days. So if I do have to miss one, I'm hoping I can rain check them better. These past ones I missed because I was basically out working on moving for the whole week. As I'm sure anyone that has moved understands that that is totally a thing that is going to happen. Yes, temporary deployment solution. Yes, well, temporary only because at minimum we could create a script for it, Simon, so that it would get used the same way for each of our example plugins, and we would not have to have that code snippet in each one. So at minimum, a part of the build would be a good solution for that. So, yay! Okay, let me have a quick look. I'm going to run our credits. I want to talk about a couple of things. So first off, thank you for joining me today, everyone. This was a mildly crazy stream, so I'm glad it did work out. I felt bad because I had to miss so many streams, but I'm really excited to be back and streaming again. So yay. let me see. First off, don't duck anywhere. I at least want to see if there's someone that we can raid. So we can keep the fun going. And I am going to roll my credits as well, because I want to make sure that I thank everybody for hanging out today. It was a fun stream. I enjoyed it, and I always like hanging out with you. So, without further ado, let's roll some credits. Let's get this out of the way so we can see them better. So, I want to make sure that I thank our moderators, me, and I want to make sure that I thank our wonderful people that click the follow button on the stream. So, if you are one of those people, thank you. And I want to thank the Todd Father for the resub to the stream. And we got a raid that I want to make sure that I call out. So thank you, that's Rad Cullen, for raiding our stream. I know that we had a few people here jump in the chat. So if you were someone that talked with me or sparked a conversation that we did, I want to thank you for that, because I always enjoy those conversations we have. If you participated or whether you lurked, awesome. So either way, I hope everyone here has a great rest of your weekend. If you are interested in checking out any of our cool stuff, I have tossed links to a bunch of things in the chat. Funny enough, those last two didn't go through. That's weird. Links are also down below the stream, so enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. I will be back here on hopefully Monday and Tuesday at our usual time. If you look at your clock, subtract 1 hour and 40 minutes, and that is our start time on Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, I'm here on Saturdays, and I'll be here on Thursdays as well. Thank you very much, leading lady. Yes, it will be a fun time. We have lots of unpacking to do, and I look forward to seeing all of you next time. So take care. I'm going to toss us to the outro screen and raid us over to another stream. So have a good one. Bye, everyone.